Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the Samsung stage. We're live on GameSpot. It's E3, it's day 2, and I'm joined by Dave.
Yes.
Dave from Crytek. Dave, what are you going to show off today?
Today we're showing Hunt, Horrors of the Gilded Age.
Hunt, Horrors of the Gilded Age. So this was just announced quite recently, right? When did you first start talking about the game?
I think a week ago, maybe.
A week ago?
If
Wow, it's brand new.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in case people watching haven't heard of it, give us a lowdown. Like, what is Hunt, Horrors of the Horrors of the Gilded Age?
Horrors of the Gilded Age.
Yeah,
we'll just call it Hunt.
We'll just call it Hunt.
Sure.
Okay, tell me about Hunt.
Yeah, Hunt's a co-op action RPG where you play a monster hunter in the late 1800s.
All right.
And it's all about teaming up with friends and going out to take down big-ass bosses. And
really, I feel like this game almost like epitomizes all the things that are popular at E3 this year. You've got co-op, which is like everywhere. You've got big monsters, which is also, you know, you can evolve in various other games. That's kind of a big thing this year. And you've also got the kind of the 1800s setting, which we have at the order as well. It's like you guys have seen into the future of all the things that E3 is about and thrown them together in your game. I think we've got some gameplay to check out as well, so we'll throw that up on screen and maybe you can talk me through what's going on.
Sure thing.
But so what's the kind of ethos behind this game? Is it just about having fun hunting down monsters with your friends, or what's the kind of vibe you're going for?
So basically, we wanted to make a game that was all about killing bosses, and you know, we love the setting because it allowed us to have a world where there's electricity and guns and railroads, but at the same time, there's also these sort of dark parts of the earth, like what you're seeing here, which is the Louisiana Bayou, where you could imagine these crazy creatures still exist. And a big aspect of the game is you're hunting down actual myths and folklore of the time period. So this mission here is about killing something called the Nightmare Witch, which is actually folklore about a witch that comes to you when you're sleeping and like sits on your chest or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think it's about sleep paralysis.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
But we basically took that idea and turned it into a boss.
Cool.
And so we wanted to have all these cool touch points. So if you're like, you see something in the game, you could go on Wikipedia and go, hey, that was actually a real thing. That's pretty cool.
So what's going on here? So you're starting off. Everyone's being very sneaky.
Sure.
So you're just trying to track her down.
Yeah.
Find out
So
where she is?
the game's an RPG, so there's a lot of build-up and player progression and development leading up to this point. But I think at this point, the players have sort of tracked down the boss, and now they're going to kill her.
So who are these other enemies then?
These are we call them the Broken, but they're basically hillbillies in the swamp. And one thing we definitely want to do is have a huge variety of different enemies. We got these guys, we got like voodoo cultists, we got undead, and that's just in this area of the game. That it is actually an international monster hunting enterprise. So
it's one way to jump through a window. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, when we put that in the game, everybody stopped using doors. Even if the window's like 2 inches from the door, they jump through the window. But anyway, we want to have a lot of different creature variety, and you know, this is one example of some of the creatures in the game. But everywhere you go in the game, every different area is going to have a different set of enemies to fight.
This is very reminding me very much of The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, these guys are very Hills Have Eyes-ish. Yes, they're kind of like the twisted black magic cultists that hide out in the middle of the swamp that you don't know about.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about the game is we wanted to get very authentic with the weaponry.
Yep.
And so a lot of the weapons are very period-based. You know, you got single-action pistols, double-action pistols, lever-action rifles. You know, it's not like a modern gun where you can just clip, reload, and shoot really fast. You actually have to reload each bullet one at a time. And so it adds a cool, unique pacing to the game you don't see in a lot of other games.
Wow, and it's quite easy to die as well.
Yeah, it's actually pretty deadly, and that's, you know, that was a big part of the game. We didn't want it to be easy. We wanted to be a challenge. You are fighting pretty crazy stuff, but we also wanted to work the aspect of death into the game. And you'll see coming up, we have a pretty unique respawn system, and that kind of ties into that fact that you are going to die a lot, but it's okay because there's a cool aspect to it that plays out from that.
So how does each kind of each encounter, each mission kind of shape up? You have to track down the monster first, the boss first, or how
so there's actually a ton of mission types that exist outside the boss fight that you play through, and during the course of that, you're kind of gathering information, collecting clues to find out where the bosses are, so you can go hunt down and kill them. And the cool part about that is all those missions are randomly generated. So it's a random layout, the enemies are randomized, the events within the missions are randomized. So every time you go in, you don't really know what's going to go on. Other than, hey, we're going to the swamp to kill stuff, you might stumble across some weird ritual, or you might find some dark altar, or you might find some people that have been kidnapped and you need to be rescued. And so it's kind of cool. You know, our goal in the beginning was like, hey, we'll make this infinite adventure system where people can just play over and over again and just cool shit happens, and it's unpredictable.
So it's looking really good as well. This is in CryEngine, right?
Yeah, this is all in CryEngine. We built our own, you know, gameplay code to do all the random generation and everything, but the graphics and everything, it's pretty nice because it's nice to have an engine with all the bells and whistles that CryEngine does.
how's the combat work then? The kind of melee combat.
So the melee combat's kind of like a conserve ammo mechanism. You know, resources are limited in this game. You don't have infinite ammo, so it's a really big deal to find ammo, to find oil for your lantern. And so the melee is something you use when you're kind of low on ammo or you want to conserve ammo, but it's actually pretty deadly to you. It's deadly against the enemies, but it's also dangerous for you because you have to close up and get close. And as I said earlier, the enemies are pretty tough. This is an example of the respawn system. So when you die, you actually appear somewhere on the map randomly. You might be in a coffin or hanging from a rope. This guy appeared in a coffin, so he's actually looking out through the cross and the door.
He's like, get me out.
Yeah, basically. And so you got to wait for one of your friends to come up and rescue you, which is pretty cool.
So what are the best ways to work together then? What's your best tactics in this game when you're getting to the final?
There's a couple things. I mean, obviously the enemies are really tough, so you got to stick together. You get wounded in the game. This guy's actually wounded. He's going to die, but you go into a wounded state, and you're a lot slower and more vulnerable, but players can jump over and assist you and help you out of that state. But a big part of the tactics is how you build your character. And one thing we want to do is we have it's like a flexible loadout system. You can build your own archetype. There's no defined classes. And so you can pick your weapons, the way your guy looks, and it's really, and your abilities. And so how you equip the abilities with the other groups and players in the group, it dictates the tactics. So you might bring medical bags so you can help heal people. I might bring dynamite so I can blow up crazies. And, you know, we have more supernatural stuff that's in the game, too, that you get from beating the bosses. So it's really about that team loadout and how you go in and tackle the fight that a lot of the co-op elements of the game come to play.
Reloading.
So, I mean, what's your kind of inspirations for this? Because, I mean, one of the games back in the GameSpot UK office, where I'm based in London, the game we play more than anything else together is Left 4 Dead 2, right?
Sure.
Just great fun for dropping in, playing a few rounds, and then going home. I mean, are you going for a similar type of vibe with this game?
Yeah, I think that, you know, we love co-op. You know, even a lot of us came from Darksiders and Vigil, and we always wanted to make that game 4-player co-op. You know, we love Diablo, Left 4 Dead, you know, MMOs, any game that's just fun to get there with a group of guys. And I think one of the things we definitely took from Left 4 Dead is that, like, session-based. Like, you go in, it's a 10, 20-minute mission, and then you're done, and you can do the next one. Yeah. But we wanted to build a game that was, you know, much more diverse. You got tons of different enemies. You got a whole RPG progression system. You have tons of cool boss fights. And so, yeah, definitely doing all that together in these quick little cool burst sessions is just a lot of fun.
So you get flamethrowers, you get a whole bunch of different weaponry.
Yeah, the flamethrower is cool because one cool thing to play with is the idea of future tech in the 1880s.
Yeah.
Because they had flamethrowers in World War I, right? And they had automatic weapons in World War I. So we kind of imagine that, hey, yeah, you got these period 1880 weapons, but at some point, as you get better, you start to play with the future technology, which at the time is stuff that was in like the 1890s or 1910. And so it allows us to introduce some interesting weapons. Yeah, this guy was died, and he's now hanging upside down. It's kind of cool. He sees the whole fight from his vantage point.
Yeah. Pretty vulnerable.
Yeah.
So if you don't save him, could enemies come and kill him again?
Yeah, you can die, and it's actually the game's friendly fire. You can actually kill him on the rope, but the game's definitely balanced to where you need the other players to survive. So, I mean, if you really wanted to, sure, you could leave him hanging.
You could roast him right there if you wanted to. I'm not saying you should, but I don't think he's going to save him there. Yeah,
it's definitely in your best interest to help save guys so that you have a full team of 4 players.
So remind me, what systems is Hunt coming out on?
So it's going to be on PC and next-gen consoles.
PC and next-gen, right, okay.
So this is a good example. There's a bunch of items in the game that aren't guns. Okay. Anywhere from like dynamite or a medical bag to a little more occult or fantastical things that you kind of build based on the enemies you defeat. That's just a simple one that kind of shows you where to go.
Oh, that was just clear path.
Sure,
right?
yeah,
okay,
and that's
cool.
something someone would have chosen to bring into the fight. It's not automatic. But there's tons of different items like that. We're not talking about them now because honestly we haven't finalized them all yet. We're only a year in. But that's also a big part of the game and that loadout aspect of preparing for the battle with your friends. So this is actually the boss, the Nightmare Witch. This is her boss arena, so would you will. Of course, you meet her in a graveyard.
Of course.
One thing we want to do too is in the boss fights we want to encourage cooperative mechanics, and you'll see a pretty cool one coming up where the Nightmare Witch actually pulls one of the players into her nightmare realm, and when that happens, they're the only player that can see the witch, and no one else can. But if they shoot the witch, then basically everybody else can see her for a second. She kind of flashes, so that guy kind of has to shoot the witch to keep her marked so everybody else can attack. And we want to try to build those type of cooperative mechanics in the boss fights so they're not just straightforward boss fights, 4 guys with guns.
So did you, for inspiration for your bosses, did you pull from like folklore and everything from this period of time?
It definitely starts as folklore, and then it's, you know, a bunch of imagination on top of that. You know, because the folklores are pretty basic. It's like, hey, here's a witch that comes to you when you're sleeping and lays on your chest. It's like, okay, how do we turn that into a boss fight? And so, you know, there's a lot of creativity that goes on top of that. But
so we can see her reappearing there because this guy's
shooting
this
guy
right?
in the witch mode right now, he's shooting her, and then when it switches to the other guy's view, you'll see her like pop in every once in a while when he hits her, and then they can. That's where they know where she is, and they can attack back.
So this is obviously taking place in the kind of hillbilly swamp type environment. But like, what other type of places will you get to go and?
That's something, we'll be talking about that coming up, but I mean, it's definitely, you know, there's a lot of cool opportunity in the time period because you could be anywhere from New York or London that's pretty advanced for the time period to like, you know, Romania or South America that's really backwater. So there's a lot of diversity in locales. And I think, you know, the key here, you know, one thing that's cool here is it's like these are ordinary guys fighting these extraordinary bosses. Yeah. They're not superheroes. They're not, you know, secret agents. They're just like dudes that picked up a shotgun and said, hey, we need to kill that witch. She's pissing us off. Let's go take her out. So here you can see she actually pulls another one of the players into the Nightmare Realm.
That's not good.
That's
there
it.
There we go. Hunt Horrors of the Gilded Age. Brilliant. Yeah, well, if you're watching at home and you have any questions, it's because this might be the first time you've ever seen Hunt. So the best thing to do would be to tweet directly at me at CamFrazRob, and I will throw those questions straight to Dave right here. I've still got a couple more things I wanted to ask you. Just basically about the 4-player co-op and like.
Sure.
In fact, can you play with just 2 people, with 3 people, with
yourself?
Absolutely.
You can play with any combination of 1 to 4 players.
Okay, right.
I mean, there are some like really tough bosses in the game that you're definitely going to want to team up with some other players.
I mean, do they scale? So if you have 4 people, the boss is harder.
Well, most of the game scales, but like I said, there will be like epic encounters where you need a full contingent of 4 guys, or you need to be really, really good to take it down by yourself. But
so I mean, we mentioned Left 4 Dead 2, but what other games did you get a look at, or other kind of media did you look at for inspiration for?
Oh man, I mean, tons of games. Left 4 Dead, Resident Evil is another great inspiration. Just the types of enemies and the pacing and that sort of thing. You know, Last of Us. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things when you make games, you just look at everything. It's like every game's built on a mountain of games.
You pick your favorite bits from the other games.
Yeah, absolutely. But really, one of the game we thought was cool was this. Hey, here's a co-op game that's focused on killing bosses. And there's not really a lot of games like that, you know. So, and that was really what it was at. Let's make this cool Sessions-based boss hunting game, and that's what we made.
And why did you choose the kind of 1800s kind of time period? Like,
I think again, it was just the diversity in the environments and the setting and the technology. It's actually a really interesting time period. You know, all kinds of crazy stuff was invented, to like transistors and electricity and crazy stuff you wouldn't even imagine that was invented in that time period was. So it was a great, and at the same time, there's still crazy places like the swamp where nightmare witches might have hung out, and people didn't know because they didn't have cameras or phones or anything like that.
So we go witches. Is there any other type of bosses you can kind of tease? What other type of creatures? What might we be coming up against?
Anything
you can tease for us?
I don't know. I would say you could look in, if you wanted to start, you could look in Louisiana and look up folklore, and I think we've nailed pretty much all the major ones in that area. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is because it's based on myths and folklore. They're pretty diverse. Like this case, it's a witch. Some other case, it's this weird gator creature that was mixed with a baboon. But
wow.
You know, we take these basic nuggets and we turn them into cool boss fights, and that's kind of the idea behind the game. So, but the cool thing is there's a ton of variety in what's already out there, even within existing folklore. We've
actually got a few questions that have come over Twitter. Do you mind if I throw them at
you?
Go ahead. We have, Stuart Hopkins wonders, can I have 3 AI buddies to play with me?
Right now, we don't have any plans for doing AI. But you can play by yourself, or you can play with 2 players or 3 players. So,
how about the game world? How open are these areas? That's what this comes from.
So that depends on the mission. Some of the missions, like this ones, are a little more linear, where it's more directed. Some of the missions do open up a little more. And again, that gets back to the random nature. You don't know. It might come in. It might be, hey, you got to escape out of the swamp. Or you might come in and say, hey, here's a little open area with farmhouses, and you need to rescue a bunch of people that are hidden, and it's a little more open-ended. So it really varies. We wanted to create as much diversity in the experience as possible.
Cool. Got another question as well from Brandon Blizzard, and he asks, what are some of the direct inspiration? Oh, we've kind of had this. Yeah, the demo had he thinks the demo had a large Lovecraft theme. I'm not sure I know what Lovecraft is.
Yeah, Lovecraft's like Call of Cthulhu, that sort of thing. Creatures with big tentacles on their mouth. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's definitely that's a huge inspiration. I will say that we will definitely have some Cthulhu-inspired creatures in the game.
Fantastic. Love a bit of Cthulhu. Well, David, it's been a pleasure having you on stage, man. It's great to chat to you.
Thank you.
It's great to see the game in action with me for the first time. I think for a lot of our audience too. So best of luck with it. Hopefully we'll see it maybe at Gamescom. Maybe it's coming up in the future.
Definitely see it at Gamescom.
Oh, definitely see it at Gamescom.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Okay. And if people are at E3, they can go to your booth and they can check out that demo again.
Yeah, they can see the cool high-res version of that video with the great sound and everything. So
fantastic. Okay. Well, thanks very much again, man. And guys, we are going to throw over now to I think a different demo from somewhere else on the show floor, somewhere. But we will be back in this stage as always in about 2 to 3 minutes. So don't go anywhere, and I'll see you then.